Hello again, Richard from MakeMoneyOnCricket.com. Now, in the last video, I promised you I was going to talk about value. First of all, what is it and why is it so much better on Test match cricket than any other sport? So, value very simply is, if you look at the odds that you're being offered by the bookmaker, let's say you've got odds of evens, which in decimal odds is 2, on Man United beating some team. But let's say the real odds, as in the real life chances of Man United beating that team, are actually 1.5. What that means is that you are going to get more money than you effectively deserve if Man United win. What you should get is 1.5 back. So you should get, if you put £100 down, you should get 150 back. But what you are getting back is 200 back. What that means is that over time, the longer you bet for, the closer the actual results are to the real life odds. Like if you went down a casino and you bet on a single number, if you bet on number 6, let's say, over 100 spins, it might come up, it might not, but it probably might not be the 36 to 1 that the real life chances are. But if you had 1,000,000 spins, you'd virtually find that every number on the board would be pretty much almost exactly on 36 to 1. But the problem is, in the casino, you only get offered odds of 35 to 1 on a single number, which means that over time, although your real life odds are 36 to 1, so 1 every 36 times you get the number you wanted, unfortunately you only get 35 back when you put your money down on that, which means that over time there's a slight discrepancy, which means the house always wins. Now what we're looking to do is reverse that, so we get value in our favour. Now the reason why it's hard to get value on the Premier League, on football, is because the bookmakers know it so damn well. Like I bet on the Premier League for 10 years and I thought I was being really smart. I thought I knew all the teams, all the players, all the head-to-head records, trying to take weather into consideration. If there was a particularly harsh referee who gave out loads of red cards and stuff, try to take all this into consideration. If someone had a bogey team but they didn't like playing against, try and take that into account. And what I found was that I'd win a few, I'd lose a few, I'd win a few, I'd lose a few. Over time, I was about even over 10 years. Which is not, it's not terrible, is it? When you consider how much money people lose on betting, for me to be even over 10 years is a pretty good result. But I don't look at it that way. I'm looking to make money on sport. So if I've spent 10 years of my life investing time into something and I've got nothing to show for it, I'm actually quite annoyed with myself for having wasted all that time. And the simple reason is, no matter how well you think you know the English Premier League, the bookmakers know it better, which means it's really hard to find value. Also, there's only so many events that can happen that can change the odds in your favour. You can get a red card, which improves the odds, or you can get a goal, and that's pretty much about it. I mean, there's certain events that move the odds very slightly, say if one team starts attacking quite heavily, but they only move the odds in a tiny way. You don't get a big shift like you want sometimes. Now, if you compare that to a game of cricket, also, the Premier League game, a football game, is pretty short, 90 minutes. So if things start going against you, there's not a lot of time to get it back. Whereas you compare this to a test match, it goes on for 5 days. So even if you make a bad call in the beginning and you bet on an incorrect outcome, excuse me, what you actually find is that over the course of 5 days, there's always a few ebbs and flows. So it's like the odds go like this, which means that you've always got a chance to jump out again if you're trading on Betfair without losing anything at the worst case scenario. And there's nearly always a chance to jump out for a profit, even if you make a bad call, which in football, the game's too short. There often isn't that time to jump out. The odds have gone away from you before you know it, and unless your team scores, then you're done. So, if we look at the second reason why cricket's better than football in terms of value, there's so many events that can happen that change the odds. First of all, the most obvious one is a wicket. Now, a wicket in cricket is virtually like a goal in football in terms of importance, but you have to take 20 wickets to win a test match. Whereas you're not going to see 20 goals in a game of football. So every time a wicket goes down, it really shifts the odds, but it happens much more often, which means there's much more chance for you to change the odds around in your favour. There's also, every time someone hits a 4 or a 6, which happens a lot, that changes the odds around a bit too. So there's always stuff going on that moves the odds in your favour. Also, let's say a really good team is playing a really crappy team, if that crappy team is batting first and they get to say 20-30 without loss, just through a bit of luck and defending and stuff, the odds on the team who are favourites suddenly shoot right out. Whereas, and this is a typical market overreaction, and what you find is eventually that team get the breakthrough after like an hour, and then suddenly that other the worst team, they just get skittled, they lose all their wickets really quickly, and suddenly the odds come straight back in again. Now if you get the odds when they're up here, you've had massive value, and that's one of my favourite things to do on cricket. Spot when the odds are really out of kilter with the real life chances of winning. There's just been a slight anomaly. The two openers have had a pretty good first hour, but they're not going to survive forever. Once one of them's gone, the whole team collapses. You know this is going to happen, but the market always overreacts and goes up here. We jump on the train at this point, and then we're laughing because we make so much more money for doing that. So I hope that video makes some sense. If you go to makemoneyoncricket.com, there's a longer explanation. There's some actual real examples that you can look through. So it might make a bit more sense than me just rambling on here. So go to the site. I've got a system on there you can take a look at as well that actually takes you through exactly what I'm talking about. But I'll be back soon with more videos. So thanks for listening.